Hey everyone, I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to review what happened last week just quickly and some tips for you for this week. So here we go. I want to say to you that the introvert extrovert question is always so interesting, gives great responses. Also, check your sharing settings. If you're not sharing it, it involves me writing you an email and sending it out and then checking to see if you resubmitted, and I have to press a lot of buttons. It's exhausting. The modern world, that's what it's come to. Okay, so please just share the Google Docs every time. If you have to check them, if I've told you once, it means you don't have it automatically set that way. So please. Okay, so interesting little phenomenon happened in introverts and extroverts. One of the things Susan Cain says is that there's something called groupthink, where if you're with a group of people, you tend to, and she says the word ape, which isn't so nice, but you sort of mimic what they're doing unconsciously. You can't help it because we all want to fit in. I mean, it seems normal. Seems like evolutionarily sound way to fit in with a group for survival. But here's what happened. The assignment itself says to give a response, and then it says it's not a summary. However, some of you in the discussion, you started writing summaries, and then people saw that you wrote a summary, then they wrote a summary. Caught on like wildfire. So again, I will say to you, read the words. We all glance and go, or we have something in our mind, like everyone looked at what was going on the discussion, and then they just did that, even though it wasn't the assignment. You'll see what I mean here. This is the groupthink example. So we just go to the assignment. It's a 200-word response. And then here it says responses are not summaries. Think as you write your own freewheeling thoughts. So it was great if you practice summarizing, it was fine. I'm just kind of showing you that, hey, check that out. So let's go back to the notes. Okay, so that's last week. So remember to read the instructions carefully, and remember, you may get something in your head that you learned elsewhere, and you have to really do something to shake that loose. So let's look at, just one little thing is that this is actually a link and a few words about a podcast I heard this week, which was very relevant to writing and a lot of endeavors. And it's about how we all have, as human beings, a natural bias towards, let me unshare so you don't read ahead. Anyway, we all have a natural bias towards adding over subtracting. So in writing, I just want to have you understand that sometimes what you need to do is take out an idea that went nowhere, or take out a sentence that isn't serving you, or it won't link to the next sentence. It's revision. So one process that we always emphasize in writing classes, writing the world over, is that it's revision. It's taking another fresh look. And just, this is another good tip. Remember that sometimes it's about taking out things that they went down the road to nowhere. Okay, so just keep that in mind and read the comments that I wrote. Sometimes I would sort of rewrite a bit. And at this part of the semester, it's almost the most type of feedback I am going to give you, because later I'm charged with grading your essays. So hopefully you're looking at the comments, and if it's on a Google Doc, you're kind of analyzing how what I'm putting in there changes what you've written. Okay, good to go. So back to the screen share. So let's look at this week's activities. It's one assignment, but it's a hell of an assignment. Okay, so I'm going to go to this. Don't click link to the document. You won't be able to. Study questions, that's just to get you into it. But what we're working on at this point is the focus paragraph. Now, just to recap, you've done an introductory paragraph. This is your essays, how it's going to go. Introductory, and then a summary, and then you're going to delve into single points. So you're going to pick out something, you're going to extract something specific from the reading or the talk or the text, and then you're going to devote a paragraph to saying something interesting about it, applying some new insight or some experience you've had or something you've observed to make it interesting and relevant. Okay, so again, single point analysis paragraphs, trust me, you're not going to get them exact on the first try. So make sure that you revise them. I, in fact, revised the very examples I'm giving you now. And I wrote them months ago, and I just tweaked one today because I reread it and went, I can make that a little more logically sound. So remember, on the instructions, there's example paragraphs and there's instructions on how to do them. So right here, focus paragraph slides, those are very detailed and they have examples, and there's audio that I've recorded there if that's how you like to do it. However, there's also a document, which is just a document that shows you how to go about this. And it looks like this. Focus. Okay. So it says, start with a transitional phrase. It's kind of a step-by-step. Create a topic sentence. I almost hate talking about writing like this because it makes it sound more boring than it is. So you're going to create the topic sentence, and I give you examples of that. So here they're in this instructions. Within the instructions, if you click on this link, you'll see 2 example paragraphs. And one of the points is from Adichie's talk about not that stereotypes are not true, it's that they're incomplete. Because some students kind of overgeneralize that it's always bad, it's always wrong, it's always, and that is not her point. Her point is more subtle than that. At any rate, it's only about that point, the incompleteness of them. So then I have a pretty involved example involving a friend of mine who was having an affair. I mean, it was very juicy. And the guy who was kind of getting her into it was using this principle of hoping she would draw a lot of conclusions from a very incomplete story. So that's me applying one idea. So students typically have trouble. The way that it goes astray is mashing all the ideas together at once. And in these focused paragraphs, you pull one thing out and then really, digest it and make it fun to think about and offer something new. Okay, so you can read about my anonymous friend, and it's from one point from the essay. So then, and this document also tells you a lot of things that go wrong. Is the quote doesn't match the content, generalizing, overgeneralizing, and pontificating about what you think is the main idea of the text. Now in the summary, you've pretty much covered that. So now you want to take something smaller, something more specific, and really sort of magnify it with your analysis. So, and it's easier when it's true. So the example I have of my friend, I was able to do it because it's true. Okay, so that's always a little bit easier if you mean it. And then sometimes, let's say you mean it and you get halfway through and you realize, wait, that isn't really an example of that. That's where the addition by subtraction comes in. So take it out. If it didn't work out, try something different. Just be flexible. Okay. And then here's another example based on Nicholas Carr. So you'll see in the slides, there's an example of Carr and Adichie. Both these 2 texts I'm giving you examples of them over and over. So here you'll see how here's a sentence. I mean, I don't mind if you almost copy some of these transitional sentences. One of Carr's more intriguing focal points is in his assumption that the internet is not so much speeding up our reasoning as promoting our native state of distractedness. So that's integrated into a sentence, but you have to glide into it with a transition. Okay, so there we go. There's actually a whole document on transitions, which, let's stop share for 1 second so I can say hello. No, so I can get back to the class notes. And then here is a document on transitions, which is it. See, I have a bridge there. Look at the bridge. The transitions, it's a different kind of a document that's about how transitions are really evident everywhere. One sentence has to lead to the next, as well as one paragraph has to be tied to the previous. So transitions are just whatever it takes to make the bridge stand up, to have your ideas cohere. All right, so we've got the study questions and the analysis paragraph this week. Easy peasy, not so fast. So just make sure that you revise your single point analysis paragraph. I see a couple of people have already submitted them, but just remember, those are the most kind of involved, and sometimes the hardest step is figuring out and extracting that single idea and not mashing together different ones or picking one that isn't really that fertile of a ground to be doing this with. You know, you've got to pick something that you've got an example, you've got an idea about, etc. Okay. So that's what I've got for you today. We'll talk about, you know, one last thing I'm going to say to you. I'm going to stop the share again. Was I even sharing? Uh-oh. Well, anyway, so this is what I'm going to say to you is that in Canvas, you know, you can look at the assignment for the first essay. So, I mean, you can see it's in modules. It's below all of our assignments. You see all these readings, and I've added some new readings. Don't worry about that now. But it also, you can see the research paper, all the instructions. Now I do tweak them, you know, a bit as we go, as depending on, you know, what's happening in our class. But they're pretty standard. You're going to write an introduction, a summary after you've picked a text. You pick something, summary, intro, summary, then you do analysis paragraphs, and then you have a conclusion. I will say though, that just keep in mind, you can also look at the second essay, which is going to be tying in two texts. So you're going to have a main text that you're writing about, and you're going to bring in some other text for your supporting evidence, you know, for your analysis, for your discussion points. Okay. And that leads me to say, you might want to save the danger of a single story for the second essay. I'm just saying, because there's some new materials in the reading module that are right underneath danger of a single story that you might be able to import into your discussion there in an easy way. But I guess I'm getting ahead of ourselves. Let's just stick to the preparing for the first essay and figuring out how to write focused paragraphs. Okay. So everybody who's already submitted it, go back, revise, take another look at it, read it out loud, think again. You know, it's just very rare that you go back and you don't find one thing. So make sure that you look at some of my comments. Again, if I've told you there's punctuation problems, you're probably doing it a lot. And if I tell you in multiple assignments, by the time we get to the essays, then it's sort of on you at that point. So, and I don't point out every error. I just kind of go, hey, you know, red flag, because of course you have all the example essays and all of the instructions to compare your work with. So hopefully you're doing some of that. Okay. It's pretty long-winded today. I tried to keep it short, but I couldn't do it. All right. Good luck this week, and revise. It's really helpful. Okay. Have a good week.